Hey folks, good morning. Welcome back to the program. This is Chris live in Rochester, New York. Freezing my body off here. Let me get back out of the wind there a little bit. Ooh, on a public street out here, standing on a public street, not invading any private property, but freezing my butt off. I'm in Rochester, New York, where I've come to talk to refugees who are up here from South Africa and any other refugees interested in talking about the services they're getting from Refugee Assistance Center. Specifically, I'm at the address for Church World Service in Rochester. Now, the reason I came here is complaints from several South Africans about the service they're receiving, saying it's substandard. It is 14 degrees temperature outside. I was here a couple minutes ago, stood in front of the door trying to read the panel. There's a panel here you push to contact the organization. As a menu, you push the pound button and it tells you what number to dial to call their offices. Well, that panel isn't viewable. It is sunken down and I can't see it. Well, thank you for your music, but move your car. No one wants to hear your shit music. Keep going. Keep going. Hate to have people on a public street playing the music so loud that you can't hear anything. But behind me, are you guys hearing me okay? Give me a thumbs up if you got sound, because all I hear is a bunch of traffic out here. This panel is collapsed. You can't see it, so you don't know what number to dial. It tells you dial a pound sign here. Where's it at? Right there, to call a number. But then when you look here, you can't read the panel. So unless you happen to know what the number is of the organization in this office building, you couldn't possibly contact them because, quite frankly, it's not visible. Now, what kind of nonsense is that? How long has that been in disrepair? As I was saying, the temperature is 14 degrees Fahrenheit ambient. I am freezing myself off here. With the wind chill, which is blowing at about 25 to 30 knots, it's well below zero ambient temperature. What's what it feels like. It is freezing. I was out here for 5 minutes. I couldn't feel my hands. They went from burning to numb. I had to go back to my car and start it. When I arrived here, there's a refugee he's been sitting in the parking lot now for about 10, what the hell? I'm trying to be fair to this organization, not attack. I'll move away from this building because it's too noisy and I keep losing the signal. Maybe if I get away from the building, I'll get a better signal. So let me come over here towards the river over here because I don't need to stand in front of the organization anymore. You got the message, you got the point there that they're not contactable. But here in their private parking lot, there are several vehicles. There's obviously somebody in the building. They're not answering the phone. I gave them the opportunity to answer the phone this morning. I called and no one answered the phone. So now, to be fair to this organization, last week I did call them, the Rochester office. I left a message. No one returned my call. That was almost a week ago, 5, 7 days ago. Remember, there's a weekend in between, so let's be fair. But I did call them and leave a message. They never returned my call. I called the New York City office for Church World Service. They never returned my call last week. I called the national headquarters. They never returned my call. Now, I ask you, does this contrast greatly with what I saw in Idaho Falls, in Twin Falls, Idaho? Sorry, it's cold. I'm having a hard time focusing here. So in Twin Falls, Idaho, there is a refugee assistance agency that is welcoming. I, as not even a refugee, was welcomed into their building, greeted politely by these folks on a Friday afternoon. They were actually at work. And I went out there and, sorry, I thought there was a vehicle going by. I was wondering what it was. So I was greeted. They welcomed me. I came in. They explained to me what they did as a private citizen, even though I wasn't a refugee. They had a room for kids, a playroom. They had a room for handicrafts and knitting and pottery and such. They had a room for lessons and all these different things. That organization, not required to do this, but they buy used cars and fix them up so that they're serviceable to pass inspection and make them available to people to buy cars for low cost. And so that's what's going on in Idaho, in Twin Falls. Here I come on a city street in the main part of town, not even outside the main part of town, but they can choose to be where they want to be. But the sign out front doesn't work. You try to push the button to get the directory, and it's collapsed down in there. And so unless you know the number, you can't possibly talk to these people. They do not return phone calls. And this has been going on now since last summer. Last summer, I contacted Church World Service through their media email in Indiana. They never responded. I contacted them several months later. They never responded. Now I'm actually here in Church World Service in Rochester trying to find out what kind of service and support they offer. But if you're a refugee and you want to go to a sort of community center for refugees to meet, to get services, to get help with your resume, your English classes, your cultural orientation, how in the hell are you supposed to do that in a place where you can't even get someone to answer the door? That's my question. That's my question. I don't understand what's going on here. They clearly have no interest in answering the phone. Now, here's the problem with this. This organization, Church World Service, receives $190 million a year from the U.S. taxpayer. $190 million a year to address the needs of refugees. Now, I'm not here encouraging refugees to come here or discouraging. That's not my role. But I am a taxpayer, and I do pay a hell of a lot in taxes. I'm one of millions of taxpayers. And that money is supposed to help people we've welcomed into our country who are seeking refuge, fleeing from persecution and or conflict abroad. And you come here and you have to stand on a street where it's 14 degrees Fahrenheit and you're freezing your ass off. I can't feel my fingers after 5 minutes. And you try to get in touch with the organization and the menu on the board says push the pound button, and then you can't read the menu because it's collapsed behind the board. This is supposed to be walking for refugees. I'm sorry, I don't understand that. If they would answer the phone calls, if they would return the emails, then I could have met with them. But they're not doing that. They're not getting paid to ignore it. Now, that's the same story I hear from the South African refugees. They've been ignored. They call, they don't answer. They call, they don't answer. Or they hang up on them. Now, I was skeptical, and that's the reason I drove all the way up here to Rochester, New York, because people embellish. There's hyperbole. People have expectations that are sometimes unrealistic. But it's not unrealistic to be able to come to a place, knock on the door, or walk in and feel welcome. You don't feel that way here in Rochester. I don't feel that way. I'm not trying to attack this organization, but this is not acceptable. Not acceptable. How long before, we have people here, apparently New York has some sort of matching grant system. I don't know anything about it. I'm going to try to learn about it while I'm here in Rochester today, where they give matching funds that the federal government provides, but you have 30 days to apply for it. I've already talked to one refugee family who's already gone beyond the 30 days because they're getting no help from this office, according to them. I've talked to two other refugees, one who's been here for 3 weeks, another who's been here for a couple days, and they're at risk of losing their matching funds from the state of New York. This is unacceptable. We don't pay $2.6 billion a year to these refugee assistance organizations around the country for this level of non-service. It's unacceptable, ladies and gentlemen. It's un-American. These faith-based organizations pretend they care about America, pretend they care about faith, pretend they care about Christ. But when it comes to taking care of people, this is a level of service people get. This is not acceptable in any way, shape, fashion, form whatsoever. Now, I've given Church World Service an opportunity to respond, and I would love to get a chance to talk to them because I'm not here to malign them. I just want to make sure that the services that we're paying an organization to deliver, whoops, the wind's blowing, there goes that 30-knot wind, are being delivered to refugees, whether they're Thais or they're Rohingya or they're Bangladeshis or Congolese or South Africans. That's the bottom line. That's what the purpose of all this is. So I've taken my time and driven a long way, stand here freezing in the cold. And I like the cold. Usually I'm wearing shorts, but I actually wear trousers today, in case anybody's wondering. Say I got trousers on. 14 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a little bit cold to walk around in shorts. I told you my threshold's 20, so we're below that. But there are 4 cars parked here in reserve parking for the building. Now, there's, I believe, other things in the building, so I can't speak to whether those are Church World Services inside. What I can speak to is I called the office number again this morning, and I didn't do it at 7 o'clock in the morning. It's 9:30. The posted office hours are 9 o'clock. 9:35, no answer. Went to a voicemail. I left a voice message. No one's returned my call in the 15 minutes since then. Last week I called them. I called here. I called New York City. I called Indiana. No response. Last year in June, I sent an email to media inquiry. No response. Then I sent another media inquiry. No response. Now, I don't know what these organizations think their purpose is, but their stated purpose is to help refugees resettle. There's no help going on here. The people I talked to last night have had to fend for themselves and figure it out. No one's being offered transportation. One of the families said they were handed a cell phone when they arrived. They told, pay your bill at the end of the month. He didn't ask for a cell phone. Bless it, that wind is really going. He didn't ask for a cell phone, but it crickets. See, this is what a refugee has to deal with in Rochester, standing on the street because you can't get in the building. It's unacceptable. Crickets. Man, that wind is just picking up. It's almost like it's working against me intentionally. Now, some car with an Anglo-Saxon white lady pulled up here a few minutes ago and has been sitting in the parking lot. It may have nothing to do with it. She may just be using this as free parking to make a phone call, but she's leaving now. There she goes. I don't know if she has it. Okay, this wind is too much. This is unbelievable. So hopefully I'm going to stand this way in case it blows. I don't want it to fall down on top of me. But ladies and gentlemen, this is not what we pay tax dollars for. This is not acceptable. I'm sorry. This is not hyperbole. This is not embellishment. I have no reason to embellish. I have no dog in the fight, no bone to pick with this organization. However, I've traveled all this way. I contacted them in a reasonable fashion over a week ago. No response from any of their offices. I've come here. The door is locked. You can't get inside. It's a multi-story building. There it is right there. You can see it. That's the building right there. In case anyone has any question whether I actually am in Rochester, there you go. It's right there. And I started this stream in front of the offices, but it's too cold to stand there, and the signal kept dropping off because the building is blocking the mobile signal. So I'm here along, I think it's the Genesee River, if I'm not mistaken. It's frozen over today because it's so cold. But yeah, this is not good. We cannot have this. So I came here to find this. I'll be in town the rest of today. These people have an opportunity to call me and respond to me and hopefully welcome me in so I can talk to them, find out what's going on. Now, I will allow for all sorts of reasons. I got to keep reaching up to keep the phone from blowing over because this tripod isn't heavy enough. But I will allow for all sorts of reasons as to why the services haven't been adequate. For instance, January 20th last year, President Trump froze the refugee program for the world, then reopened it just for South Africans, of all races, by the way, who are being discriminated, racial minorities. So President Trump reopened the program, and it was about 9 months between time that these people delivered anything in the way of services. Maybe they're rusty. Okay, I'll accept that. But now they've had refugees coming here since at least December. They should be back on top of things. Additionally, I'll allow for the fact that maybe they had to hire new staff. They're inexperienced. But then they have a role and responsibility as supervisors in the organization running the place to make sure those people are up to task. They're clearly not up to task. This is unacceptable, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot accept this level of piss poor service. This is not right. Whether they're from Congo or from South Africa, it doesn't matter. They deserve the same level of care. The gentleman who's been trying to reach somebody inside who doesn't speak English is still in his car out here, dialing numbers frantically in front of me, trying to stay warm because it's freezing out here. But I'm telling you, this is not acceptable. Okay, so I've made allowances for them, excuses for them. Also, I've said that, people embellish, people exaggerate, there's hyperbole. But I spoke with the refugees last night. I don't think any of the stories they told me are outrageous. From their perspective, they explain them fully. So what I'm saying here is that Church World Service has an obligation to refugees. Now, my question is this bigotry or racism directed against the South Africans? I don't know. I haven't talked to these people. I don't know their views. It doesn't appear that it's directed against South Africans because this guy from South Asia is struggling to get a hold of somebody on a day they're supposed to be open, outside their office. Do they do this to every refugee that comes here to Rochester? If so, this is horrific. I'm going to go now, leave here and go to other agencies in Rochester to provide services to refugees, to find out what service they provide, and also tell them that abysmal level of service we're getting from Church World Services. So there you have it, folks. Freezing in Rochester. My feet are getting numb with my Jim Green shoes on. I'm wearing Jim Greens today. I don't know if you can see that there. I can't see if you can see it, but those are Jim Greens. And I'm freezing. They're great, but not for standing around in 14-degree temperature with a wind chill knocking it well below zero. So my feet are freezing. Now my fingers are starting to go numb again after being here for a little bit. I will be back later on with more streams from more locations around Minneapolis. Around Rochester. There's a Rochester in Minnesota too. That's where the Mayo Clinic is. But I will be around more locations, and if people offer to give me interviews, I'll be happy to do those. But we're going to try to find out what's going on here in Rochester, where it appears that people that the United States has welcomed into its midst without American citizens' approval, by the way. We don't approve this. We've never had a say in all these refugees coming to this country over these years. That's not for or against them. It's just a statement of fact. Government does it without our consent. But whether the people we've welcomed into our midst are actually getting the care that they deserve and that we as taxpayers have paid for, because we're paying for services that aren't being rendered. At least it appears that way, based on my interview last night with 6 South Africans who've had miserable experiences here and been left to fend for themselves. I've come here to the offices this morning in Rochester to try to find out if that's just a story or if it's true. And I can tell you that I can't get in the building because you can't find out what suite they're in because the damn sign has fallen down behind the monitor. So who knows what number to call? And they don't answer their phone. And I don't know if those people from Church World Service are here or if other occupants of the building are here, because there's 4 cars in reserved parking here, which are obviously for employees somewhere in the building. But the bottom line here, ladies and gentlemen, is this is substandard. Again, this is Rochester. It's called the City of Sanctuaries. The City of Sanctuaries. Well, I don't feel much sanctuary freezing here in Rochester right now. I wonder how Rohingya Muslims who've come here fleeing from persecution in Myanmar feel, or Afghans who come here, or Iraqis who come here, or Congolese who come here, or Somalis. Whoops. Or South Africans. Somehow I suspect they don't feel very safe here in Rochester or very welcome. And that's unfortunate because the city labels itself the City of Sanctuaries. I don't feel any sanctuary. I'm freezing. And live from Rochester, New York, reporting on this refugee story. This is Chris, about to take my glove off and hope I don't get a flash freeze because I need to stop this stream. Thank you. I'll be back a little bit later on. Please tune in for more follow-up live interviews today and broadcast from Rochester.